We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. My name is Taylor Eland, and I host a show called Just Think, where I look into philosophy, theology, and other scientific ologies to figure out the underlying workings of an argument. If you would like to learn something new every week while getting both sides of a theory, go ahead and check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, and Google Podcasts, along with various other networks on Sundays.
Hello gamers and welcome to Budget Arcade, a free-to-play gaming podcast to help you navigate through the growing realm of free-to-play games. I'm Scott.
I'm Jeff.
And unfortunately, I'm Cody.
And welcome to episode number 9. So, 9 episodes.
Why are you exhaling so heavily already?
You know why.
We haven't even started reviewing the game!
Yeah, and that should be a good indication.
Well, you know, this game has lots of enemies in it, like goblins and jellies and trolls. And speaking of trolls, Cody,
ogres.
what are we playing this week?
God, I think Jeff's trolling us because we are playing Brogue, Brogue. It is a roguelike game developed by Brian Walker. According to Jeff, it's got a pretty hardcore following in the roguelike community, but
The 12 of us that like it, we're pretty hardcore about it.
pretty much. So I guess let's jump into what little gameplay there is.
Let's hit it.
God.
And there's not a little bit of gameplay. All right, I'll take over from here because you guys are going to poo-poo the game.
Oh, you
It's a
damn
great
right
game.
I am.
Don't listen to Cody and Scott. Well, I don't know how Scott feels, but I know Cody, he doesn't have any sort of, I don't know the word. He doesn't have whatever it is I'm thinking of. Now,
I like roguelike games, but I didn't like this one.
okay, you like the modern sort of roguelikes. You like a Binding of Isaac. You like a Enter the Gungeon. You like a Dead Cells.
Flintlock, all that good
But
stuff.
those
Those are all really good games.
Yeah, those are not really roguelikes. What those are
What?
are...
How are those not roguelikes?
They are... Okay, here we go. All right, I'm ready. A roguelike is a turn-based grid game similar to Brogue. So the reason it's called roguelike is there was a game called Rogue. And Rogue is a turn-based... The graphics are all ASCII, so it's symbols and numbers and letters. And it's black and white because it's usually played in like a DOS console. And you move your character around and you fight monsters and you get gear and you level up, and the floors are always randomly generated. The items are randomly generated, which sounds familiar. But the one constant in true roguelike games is that they are turn-based and they are grid-based and it's top-down. So you've got Rogue, Brogue, NetHack, Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. There's tons of them out there. Tales of Maj'Al. Those are roguelikes. Those are a traditional roguelike. You've probably heard the term roguelite, and that's basically where the games you're talking about fall. Enter the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac, Rogue Legacy.
And I apologize.
And I love those games. I'm not snooty or...
That's my bad.
Yeah, I'm not snooty or uppity about it, but they are not what you would consider a true roguelike. This is a true roguelike. So if you didn't like this, you probably don't like true roguelike games. But I know Scott has played, help me, Scott, Shattered Pixel Dungeon.
Pixel Dungeon and Shattered Pixel Dungeon.
That is a true roguelike. What was the other one you played?
Shattered Pixel Dungeon.
Okay, so those are true roguelikes.
That's the one that you got me into mostly, though, because you said that one was a little bit easier than regular Pixel Dungeon, which it is a bit easier. but there's some aspects of it that the original like had that this one didn't, and I like that better.
Yeah. Okay, so if anyone listening has played a traditional roguelike, you kind of know what to expect. The reason I picked this one, and the reason it is my favorite, is because the interface and the controls are actually, compared to other roguelikes, it gives you more information up front. On the left-hand side, you see all the enemies and their health. You see what status they're in. So if you saw my first play, there were a couple things I just one hit. And that's because I could tell that those characters were sleeping. So I was able to sneak up to them and attack them while they were asleep. I could tell whether they're hunting me or if they're just kind of wandering around and not aware of my presence. So the way you play the game is you control your character with the number pad. And so you move in 8 directions. And so you're 7, 8, 9, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3. That's how you move around. And then 5 is the wait key. So if you need to wait a turn for an enemy to get closer so you can do whatever you need to do, that's what you do. You attack by what they call bumping. So you hit the key that is in the direction of the enemy you want to attack, and that does a bump and does damage. You can easily see how much damage they have left. The other thing about traditional roguelikes is there's usually an identify system. So as you're picking up your scrolls, as you're picking up your potions, you don't know what they are. So you have to either drink them or read the scrolls. And one of the scrolls you will uncover, usually pretty early on, is an identify scroll. And you can use that to identify your equipment, which may or may not be cursed, may have stat bonuses, or if it's cursed, you're stuck wearing it until you get a scroll of enchantment to uncurse it. All right. So anyway, the game is 25 floors. And you go all the way down fighting all kinds of monsters that get progressively harder and harder till you get to the 25th floor and you get the Amulet of Yendor. Once you have that amulet, you have to leave the cave or leave the dungeon, so you scale all the way back up. The game is impossibly hard, but that goes with the genre. The other thing is the graphics are what you call ASCII. However, these are not true ASCII.
Graphics.
Well, go back and play NetHack. Go download NetHack and tell me these are
pass.
graphics or not. So these are actual tiles, and you'll see, like, if you see lava, you can tell it's lava because it's orange and it glows, and the water is blue, and you can see how deep it is. You can tell the status of characters just by looking at them. So there's a lot of detail there. So if someone were to say, hey, I want to try a traditional roguelike, this is the one I recommend because it is the most like a traditional roguelike while still being accessible to someone who's willing to give it a shot.
All right, so is it my turn to poop all over this real fast?
You may go ahead and vacate
are
your
you going to
bowels
poop on
now.
the gameplay?
A little bit, yeah. All right, so
How about
I
it?
will rebut.
all right, so starting off, I downloaded this game. Not a big deal. Opened it up. For some reason, the resolution was way higher than it should have been. So the screen size, it took me probably about 30 minutes before I figured out how to decrease the screen size. And I apologize. I don't normally play on PC, so this is probably my fault. But I didn't realize how, like, I started playing and I'm like, okay, what is going on? Like, I feel like I'm missing a lot of the key aspects. I couldn't actually read the text at the bottom of the screen that was coming up because the screen was too large. So I finally figured out, I was like, okay, so that makes sense. Let's see if this gets any better. It was still very, very hard once I figured out how to decrease the screen size, which again took me 30 minutes. But
Or you could have texted your boy. I'd have told you.
I wanted to try. I was too proud. I wanted to figure it out on my own. Anyway, so I started off and I was like, okay, it took a little bit to figure out the layout of the dungeon, and okay, then I started realizing, okay, the asterisks are the walls, and I can move through this. This limits my vision, whatever. And I also did not know that you could use the number pad to move around. I was using the, I was pointing and clicking on everything, so that might have been part of my problem. So I was using my mouse the entire time. So I would move and I would just like hope an enemy wouldn't run into me, and that usually didn't happen. And I would get obliterated. I think the farthest I made it down was like 4 or 5 floors, and I just got decimated every time. And like we talked before, there's a really fun enemy called the pink jelly, and every time you hit it, it splits into two, which is really fun, especially when you get completely surrounded and then you can't move. So you have to defeat them, and then by the time I could get away from it, I was like at a quarter health or I died. So yeah, that was fun. And then I didn't know what the items were, and I started drinking random items. And there's one that's called
that's part of the gameplay, though.
Yeah, that's true. But there was one I was like, oh yeah, this is the potion of disappearance. I can go down the floor and get away from this. It'll be fine. I drank the potion of disappearance to get one away from one of these pink jellies. I fell and I died. I was a little more than upset.
I think it actually disappears the floor underneath wherever you throw it, and that's probably what happened.
Yeah, that's not the invisibility potion. That's the potion of descent.
Descent, that's what it's called. The potion of descent. Yeah, I used that thing and it killed me. I was very angry. But yeah, this game is super, super hard. I will point that out. It is very tough.
That I agree with. As much as I love it, I've yet to beat it. Now, I've gotten down to about floor 17 or so, and a lot of times I'm getting carried by my items, similar to a game like Enter the Gungeon, where I'll identify the good potions, the important potions, and scrolls right out of the gate. You can get pets in this game. So I've found an ogre one time. So what happens is while you're descending, you'll find various events, so to speak. And a lot of times you'll find these prisoners that are being held. So you go into the room and you slay the monsters, and then you can go up and free the prisoner, and then they befriend you.
Are you
and I
serious?
got an ogre one time. Yes. And I got an ogre one time who's already super powerful, but then you have these scrolls you can find that you can use to level up your allies. And so I had this monstrous ogre fighting with me as I went down into the dungeon, and that's how I ended up getting there. So, I mean, it's a much like other roguelikes that you've played, Cody. When you first picked up Enter the Gungeon and Isaac, you were probably getting slayed first, second floor, right? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. I was getting to. I think it took me probably about 7 or 8 runs before I could actually get past the first level of Enter the Gungeon, like consistently.
What did you think, Scott?
So, when I first opened it up, I'm like, what is this? What has he gotten us into? I streamed my second play, and Coconut Wizard was watching me at the time. And it is definitely very similar to the other roguelikes that I've played, but this one is so much harder. For example, like Shattered Pixel Dungeon, I've actually gotten all the way down to the bottom, gotten the Amulet of Yondor, and then made it all the way back to the top. I've sent Jeff a couple screenshots of me doing it.
And you've gotten further on that game than I've ever gotten.
Yeah, but this game, I could not get past the 3rd level of the game at all, period. And
was it pink jellies that got you too?
Yes, a pink jelly did get me at one point in time, and then another time I picked up an item, and then the floor started caving in around where I was at, so I fell on that. That was fun. Not really.
There's items and traps in these dungeons that you can find. Sometimes you have to find a key, or if you trigger a trap, I don't know if you noticed, you can throw items. So
no, I didn't realize that.
So like so if you see a room of like filled with enemies, but you also see like a caustic trap on the ground, you can just throw something at that trigger, and it'll hit the trap, and then all of a sudden that room will fill with caustic gas and do tons of damage to those enemies. So that's kind of why I like this game so much, is because even though you guys are getting slayed by pink jellies, I don't sweat pink jellies anymore, because it's all about positioning. What you need to do, if you see a pink jelly and you're in a wide open area, you need to flee. This is a game where sometimes it's just better to live than to try to fight something head on. You have to, so those pink jellies, one sec. So those pink jellies, what you want to do is walk backwards, find a hall, so that at the most you have to worry about 2 jellies. So you have one on your left and right or top and bottom, depending on which way the tunnel is, and then you can slay them down, and it's no big deal. But you have to play the game to learn that.
I call BS on that because I tried that. I was like, okay.
Call it all you want.
Okay.
My first play's out there, and I show people how to do it.
Yeah, I know, but you've also played this game. So I tried to do the same thing, and I was like, okay, let me just retreat into this hall. Obviously, they can't, just jump over me. That's not a problem. And all of a sudden, I kept getting surrounded by them, and I was like, okay. So they split up into 2, one on either side of me. I was like, all right, well, let me just hit the other one. Let me retreat a little bit. Yeah, no, that didn't work because it just split into another one that spawned on that side, and it became an infinite wall of jellies until I died. It was so annoying.
With Shattered Pixel Dungeon, I found that if you actually lead enemies into doorways, it makes them a lot easier. And it seemed to be the same way with this game. I actually, another time I played it, had encountered another jelly, and I led it back into where I knew there was a door. I walked through the door and then let the jelly into the door and then start attacking it. When you do that, they spawn one behind them, but they don't spawn any in the room that you're in, so you can actually take them out a lot faster that way and with less casualty on your part. My biggest thing, though, was, so you've got these enemies called jackals, and then you've got the pink jellies, and they're both denoted as a J. So unless you look over to the left and see what the actual enemy is, all you see is a J, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to attack this jackal. No, it was a pink jelly. Good job.
So, yes, you can look over to the left, but actually pink jellies are denoted by a capital J, and jackals are lowercase.
Huh, I just thought they were color-coded.
Well, semantics.
No, but they're also color-coded.
Yeah, I
Pink
noticed they
jellies
were
are
all
pink.
color-coded.
So, that's
Well,
the
what
thing,
if you're colorblind?
Well,
jerk?
then you're out of gas. Well, no, because colorblind people can still see whether something is lowercase or uppercase, and they do have a guy by the
Allegedly.
name of, oh, okay, whatever.
What if they're
I'm not going to
dyslexic?
get into it, but
What if they're
there's a guy named
colorblind and dyslexic? I'll do that.
Yeah,
That-
but then they
does
see
that
the J
have to
upside
do with
down. What
anything?
then?
Dyslexia doesn't affect you if it's only one letter. You have to have more than one letter for dyslexia to take place.
Don't ruin my joke, please.
It's terrible. So
Shut up.
I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah. Okay. So there is you can get a game a download of this version. There's a couple different mods out there. There's one that actually gives you a first person perspective. And there's one that gives you what they call a guy by the name of Oryx made graphical tiles for it, so you can play. So your rats look like little rats, and your jackals look like jackals. But the problem is that's even harder to tell at a glance, because it's like, is that a jackal or a rat? Where to me the letters make it much more readable. And the other thing I like about this game is it's kind of like a book. So when you see a movie, all you get is what the director and the actors and everybody are showing you. But when you read a book, your characters are going to look different in your mind, and the enemies are going to look different, and the world's going to look different. And this game forces you to use your imagination because the graphics are so limited.
So I will praise the game on this, is that, so it is it does give you a lot of detail on everything that's going on. Like Jeff said, it'll tell you whether the enemy is wandering around, whether it's sleeping, whether it's hunting, and you can try to avoid things from that. And like even I was using, like I said, I didn't know that you could use the keyboard to move around, so I was pointing and clicking. Well, if I wanted to go to some faraway place, well, I would click on it, and then it would actually stop me, and it would say, hey, you see a rat, you see a jackal, you see a... What was that one enemy called? It was a K.
The kobolds?
Cobalt.
Yeah. So I would see it, you see all these monsters, and then you have to look around the screen, see it, and then go, okay, well, all right, obviously I need to try to avoid it at this point because I'm low health, or whatever the situation might be. You can analyze it from there, and it does do a very good job of letting you strategize by seeing, and gives you the status updates of all the enemies around you. And I did appreciate that because it did make it slightly easier to get past the first couple floors. Doing that, you see a sleeping rat or the Colgar or whatever the heck it's called.
Cobalt. I'm going to give you a pro tip to get to the third floor every time. You ready for this? If you hold Control and tap A, it goes into autoplay. And the game, on its own, playing poorly, will get you to the third floor every time. If you're having trouble on floor 1 and 2, I don't know what you're doing. I really don't.
The first couple floors weren't my problem. It was once I got down to levels 3, 4, and 5 that I just got. There's just so many enemies, and I'm trying to look around for potions, and this is probably where my biggest compulsion is to explore everything. That's probably what got me in trouble, because I want to explore every nook and cranny. That's what I've always done in games, whether it be like any linear game with like a couple of hidden things. I check every nook and cranny, and that got me into trouble more times than not, because I would have to fight a ton of enemies trying to get to these items. And it may not be worth it in the end, because like I said, I would pick up the potions of descent, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, what's this? I drink it, and then all of a sudden I fall, and I'm less than half health now, surrounded by enemies.
So here's the thing. You said so yourself, you're like, I didn't know you could throw things. So if you have a potion of descent and you see a jelly coming, if you lob that potion of descent at that jelly, the floor is going to fall out from underneath it, and it's going to drop, and you can move right through.
And these are things
that's part of the gameplay. Like all of those, all of those things have uses. There are 2 scrolls that actually don't have a use. They are what you would call like troll scrolls, where if you read one, it'll spawn a bunch of enemies, and the other one will awaken all the enemies in the room, and they'll start hunting. So those are useless. Once you identify those, you can throw those away. But potions, the negative effect ones, you can throw at enemies and poison them or whatever that negative effect is. And then the positive ones, obviously, you can drink. So this is an RPG, so to speak, but there are very few stats. It's defense, strength, and life, really. And your defense is determined by your armor. Your strength is determined by potions of strength. And that's the closest thing to a level you're going to see, because all of your equipment has a level next to it when you pull up your menu. So you start off at 12 strength, and as you drink a strength potion, you go to 13 and 14 and so on. And then you can equip better equipment and do more damage to monsters. And then you have your life potions, which are what level up your life. And those fully heal you, as well as increase your health, I think, by about 25%. So those potions are more plentiful. And so when you're talking about you don't know what to identify or anything else, your enchantment scrolls and identify scrolls are going to be your most prevalent. So when you start picking up stuff and you get about to the 3rd level and you open your inventory, you're going to say, oh, I got 3 of those scrolls. That's probably enchantment or identify. I've got a bunch of those potions. That's probably life or strength. And those are the ones you're going to drink first or read first.
All right, let's take a short break to play some announcements, and we'll be right back.
Knights and Nerds is not just an actual play D&D podcast with an original campaign being played by a group of friends who tolerate each other. It's also a podcast where I, the Dungeon Master, talk about how I'm adapting to the choices the players make, as well as revealing to you, the audience, the complex story and deadly twists that I have in store for my players. Find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or at knightsandnerds.com.
We're just going to keep talking until I find 15 seconds of pure gold. Just try not to cuss.
Luke, this feels...
Well, there it is. He said it. We should probably say that we're the rules lawyers at some point too, right?
You are passing through a wetland with tall... I'll start again. Do you have your character sheet for it?
What?
Do you not?
12-11.
But okay, but
My question though, do you have your character sheet? Where is it?
At home, I forgot that was not in my phone. Halfway here.
Yeah, charisma 17.
He's not doing a Guy Fieri presentation. He's trying to make it cook good.
Donkey sauce.
Wait for the commotion to escape.
Huh? What's huh? Who said that? Bill? No, it wasn't me.
It was Bill Nye.
Bill Nye, was it you? It wasn't me. That's my Bill Nye voice. Oh boy! Here comes the aneurysm. I think I got 15 seconds in there.
And welcome back to the show. So when I started playing this game, it reminded me, just because of the way the graphics are, it reminded me of our listener Antonin, who is a programmer, developer, and he's posted code on his Twitter various times, and the color scheme and all the symbols and stuff, it looked exactly like code. So when I pulled up the game, I'm like, what am I looking at? But as far as this game is concerned, it's a completely free-to-play game.
Yeah, it's the first game we've got that doesn't require any payment. You can't put a credit card in anywhere. I think the most you can do is they might have a donate link on the site where if you really like the game, you can send them some dollars to support it. But it is 100% free to play, and it's the first game that we've done where it's just free. Go play it. Even if you hear Cody and you're like, oh, that does sound like trash, there's no reason not to at least try it. It's a small download, and it's if you're thinking about getting into a traditional roguelike, maybe you've played Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon or Spelunky or these games, and you want to see where it kind of started, this is the best entry point in my opinion. That, or there's another game called Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, which has a lot more graphical interface that you might want to try.
Now, because this game does randomly generate all of the levels, everything that you play is completely randomly generated, and actually it's very similar to the first Diablo, which was, I guess, a roguelite. Would you call it, Jeff?
No, because the only thing that makes that game a roguelite is if you play hardcore, and a lot of that's really pushing the term, in my opinion.
I
guess if you play hardcore, it kind of is, but
I still consider like any kind of
it's a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, I would consider that more of a dungeon crawler and loot. What
it's just more of an action RPG than anything.
Well, it's like a loot grinding game where you need to keep grinding the same level over and over again to level up and find better loot and stuff. But this game was very the roguelike. Like I said, I came from the background of Enter the Gungeon and Binding of Isaac, and I even played a lot of I played a little bit of Dead Cells, and going from that to this was a completely different monster. But I will say there is a ton. I guess do y'all want to go ahead and jump into the replayability of this?
I'm ready.
I mean, that's what I was leading into.
Yeah, there is a ton of replayability to this, just for the simple fact that everything is randomly generated. And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. Even if you play one round, you figure out what all the potions do, what all the scrolls do. They generate. It's all of them are different on the next run through. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong. So if you find a gray potion and you drink it, and it's a potion of strength, the next time you play the game, and you drink a gray potion, it's going to be something different. And that also brings up this game does have seeds. So if you play an awesome run, and you can pull that seed up and send it to a friend and say, hey, try this seed. I actually got this depth on this point. There's some cool stuff in this seed, and send it to a friend. The other thing this game does, as archaic as it looks, is it has a replay system. So when you finish a game, you can go back and look at what happened turn by turn. You can get highlights. So like if you finally do something amazing or beat the game, you can pull it up and show people, hey, look, I beat the game, and record it and put it on YouTube or whatever. And it also keeps track of your high scores. One of the things that the high scores are kind of meaningless. It's more important than score is how far you get in your depth, because the score is determined by gold, which is really this really weird, like if I'm going to give it a negative thing, it's this really weird scoring system where you'll just find gold, and the gold is useless. There's no shops. There's no way to spend it. It's just,
I was
it
wondering
really
what
is
all
just
that
there
gold
for your
was
score.
I thought I kept picking up gold because
And
I
there's
saw it
no-
on the ground. I thought it was something useful, like I would find a merchant later on or something.
It's meaningless. Other than
Wow, that
it
stinks.
when you finish the game, it shows it as the score. And to me, that has no bearing on anything. Whether you found a game with a lot of gold in it or you didn't, makes no difference. It doesn't determine how well you did. Your depth, on the other hand, does give you a better indication of how well you've done.
All right. Well, what do you say, Cody? Does it get your seal?
You know what? As hard as I have just dumped all over this game between the difficulty, the graphics, just the
We forgot to mention how good the soundtrack is.
There is none.
It's just dead silent. So what I did on my first play is I went to rainwave.com question mark, which is a
No, it's
gaming
dot something else.
Yeah, okay, dot something else. But if you search Rainwave, you can find gaming music that is, if you play it while you're streaming, you don't have to worry about it getting muted for like copyright infringement. So I played that in the background when Scott was watching. I got into I ran into some sort of big monster, and he goes, "Oh man, the music's kicked up," and it's fine. If you like listening to podcasts, which if you listen to this, you probably do, unless we've turned you off of the medium. You said, I'm never listening to another one again. But this is a great way to do it. Listen to an audiobook, put some music on, and just tap away.
That's exactly what I did. I listened to some some political podcasts that I listened to, and some news podcasts that's just explaining what's going on in the world. Put that on, kept playing the game, trying to figure out what's going on, and it was okay. But yeah, we'll get back to the rating system. As hard as I dumped all over this game, you know what? It actually, for a completely free to play game, it's a good time waster. If you like,
So I think, Cody, I think you would like this game if you really watch some videos on it, like you do. We've been playing Enter the Gungeon like crazy lately because they just released their final update, the Farewell to Arms, and we've been getting back into it. And you were telling me, hey, I got the wiki up. I pull this up and tells me what these items do, and I look for tips. If you kind of did the same thing with this, I think you'd start to get into it, start to enjoy the challenge, and enjoy sort of one of the best things about roguelikes is they're turn-based, so you have all day to make that next decision. When you're in a tough situation, one of the worst things you can do in a roguelike is rush, and you get a chance to take your time, get a cup of tea, come back and say, okay, let's do this. I've got this item. I can get out of this situation in this way. So I think you'd really like it if you kind of came back to it, like if you really put some time in, because it is, I understand it's not accessible in that way because it's so archaic.
And it is very archaic with the graphics, and the learning curve is tremendous in this game. So I tried to do this completely blind. I didn't look up any walkthroughs, nothing. I never watched any other playthroughs, and I
didn't
got
even
my
watch
butt
mine.
I obviously I didn't. God, why would I watch your stuff? You're a horrible
Because
person.
then you can figure out how to beat a pink jelly for once.
But you're a horrible person to begin with, and you're not funny, and you're not entertaining. Actually, I don't really know why you're on this podcast. But anyway,
Fair enough.
I tried to go through this 100% blind, and I got my butt kicked. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think Jeff would be right that I would be more into this because I like a challenge. I do. I like the Dark Souls games. I actually just bought Sekiro, and I love the challenge of it. And you know what? I might actually start taking this with me to like school and stuff, and between days. And now that Jeff's explained some of this stuff to me, I might try to grind some stuff out on it. As much as
That's the beauty of roguelikes.
As much as I dumped all over this game to begin with, I do give it my seal of approval just because it is 100% free. There is nothing attached to it, and I love that. It's difficult. there's a ton of replayability just because everything is randomly generated. And you know what? Why not give it a shot? I mean,
so here's the thing: if you're at work, these games like they can download on your computer, and since they don't actually install, the what you download is the game. You just click it and open it. It runs on most computers. Like if you can just get it downloaded on your work computer, it'll run. And the other thing is there's other roguelikes, maybe not so much this one, but there was another one I was playing where it just looks like a DOS prompt. And it looks like work because it's just letters and symbols everywhere. And it looks like I'm in there writing code or whatever. And so the boss walks by, all he sees is an @ symbol moving around, punching the letter J in the face. He doesn't know I'm playing a game. It's awesome.
Johnson, what are you doing over there? I'm writing code, sir.
Writing code, sir. But Johnson,
Very good. Keep it
you're
up.
not a programmer. You do the dishes here.
Side job, sir.
Well, this got awkward. I can explain. That's where that would go.
Then you would just introduce his boss to this podcast where he learned about the game. Scott, do you give it your seal of approval?
Okay, well, so my second play, I did exactly what you did, Jeff. I opened up Rainwave and started streaming it. And with the music in the background, it wasn't as bad. But I'm more used to, like, some of the roguelikes that have a little bit more graphical interface. So it was... my problem was I didn't play it like I do other roguelikes, and that's probably what got me into the mess where I was dying by the third level every single time. I'd say this game is pretty decent. The graphics that it does have with the coloring scheme and everything is actually pretty nice to look at, and it's
I agree.
It's pretty
Of course you do.
It's almost relaxing to the point. Like I was on one level and it was like this huge, like almost like an ocean in front of my character, and it was almost like had this shimmering effect. And Coconut Wizard was watching me play, and he was like, "Oh, the water's so pretty," and I like kind of looked at it. I was like, "Yeah, it actually is pretty decent looking." The one thing I really enjoyed about this game is the names of the scrolls before you actually identify them.
Yep.
They were hilarious. I kept making
Also
up
randomly
alternate
generated.
names, and yes, and I was trying to pronounce the names, and I had Coconut Wizard just laughing because of just some of the things I did. I was like, there was one I like said something, and I was like, oh, it sounds like an acid reflux medicine because the way it was like made.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called a
Yeah, exactly. It was stuff like that. I'm gonna say I'm gonna give this my seal of approval, only because Jeff talked me into it while listening to him talk about the game, and I think that happened to Cody as well, and it'll probably happen to people who are listening to the podcast as well. So yes, I give it the seal of approval on this one.
We can just
Well,
skip Jeff's
I
part.
go,
He knows
this
that-
game
we
is
know that he's
trash.
gonna get his seal of
No.
approval.
It's great, and let me just say, and maybe
Yeah,
this
Jeff's
one
gonna go,
doesn't
it's
do you
trash.
for-
I tricked you guys.
There are
Go and
so
smite
like
all over
rogue
again, 2 stars and get
traditional
seal of approval. What
roguelikes. No, traditional roguelikes as a genre are free, and not just Brogue. It's not unique to Brogue. You can find Rogue, you can find NetHack, you can find Dungeon Crawl, Stone Soup. There's one that that you have to pay for, but there is a free version of where it has just less classes called Tales of Magiel, which is a really good one. That one actually has sound effects and graphics, and if you need that interface, that's there as well. One of my favorite roguelikes is called Dungeons of Dreadmore, which is you do have to pay, but it'll usually be on sale for around $5 with all the DLC on Steam. And that one's my first one. I love it the most because it was my first one, but there's just so many, and there's so many hours on any one of these games of entertainment because they are difficult, but they keep changing. So every time you go back in, you might find something awesome or different. So yes, absolutely my seal of approval. I'm so surprised that all three of you, us, gave it a seal of approval. My mind is blown.
Look, his brain doesn't even work. He can't even speak anymore. I will give it the caveat of that. If you're going to get into this, don't, because like I said, honestly, I was going to just dump all over this game and I was going to just trash it from the beginning because I didn't like it. I was just getting decimated when I was playing through it. But now just listening to Jeff like explaining some of the stuff that you can do, that is a really neat concept. If you're going to do this, you know, play through it a couple times blind, try to figure some stuff out on your own, and then look up some guides and have them help you out. Because I didn't do that because I thought it would make the gameplay and the review more authentic. Yeah, we see how that turned out. Because I was going to just dump all over the game and say, yeah, this game is trash. Don't ever play this. And there's a lot more to it that I didn't realize. So, yeah, look up some guides.
And sometimes
you're probably going to enjoy it.
And sometimes the best way to defeat something in this game is to run away. Throw a confuse potion at it and get the hell out of there because you're just not going to beat it. And that's part of the strategy is to know to pick your fights, make sure they're ones you can win, and if you can't, run away, figure a way to get out of it. On my first play, you'll see I get sort of surrounded at one point, and there's a big pond of water at my back, and you can swim through it, but it empties your pockets, and I didn't want all my stuff to kind of fall out of my pockets while I was swimming and float around in this pool. So I drank a potion of levitation and I floated over the water to get away from it. And sometimes you just have to run away.
All right, before we close out, I had pulled up something I wanted to bring up to everybody. It was on the Apex Legends Reddit page. A user, Oli86, hopefully I'm saying that right, but he did this post, and it really encompasses the free-to-play mentality whenever we're playing games like this, where, you know, it may not be, it's free-to-play to play the game, but then they've got all these cosmetics or whatever not to purchase and all that. So this user, he posted this, and it's the headline is, "Over a decade ago, I played Counter-Strike. Each match we won or lost, no XP, no reward. I think we need to ask ourselves why we play a game." And in the body of the text, he goes, "I guess I'm sad that things have changed and games have to drip feed pieces of candy to maintain a happy player base these days. I played hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of CS 1.6. For those who don't know, CS is Counter-Strike. It was originally a mod that was free to download for Half-Life. Okay, and had nothing more than a day one player, except knowledge and skill. The reward was a kill, a win, holding a sight when rushed. I suppose I'm also a bit of a sucker for this since I get caught up in it. I get that buzz when a purple or gold laser fires from one of the spinning triangles. What's mad is literally everything that could drop doesn't really bother me that much. When I step back, I'm playing because I enjoy the game, not because my Pathfinder is now more pink or my R301 is shiny. I think I think we might forget the way it used to be, and our addiction to shiny rewards tarnishes our true enjoyment of a well-made game. So take a moment when you see a lackluster battle pass or no packs after level 100 and ask how much you really care about what it is and what is really in them and why you're playing in the first place."
Are you done? Are you done?
One more second. Just one more time.
Do the Heimlich yourself.
I'm done.
Do the Heimlich in the back of the chair.
Jeff, if I could reach through.
That was a good post. No, it was a good post. But, you know, like what you like. I don't care.
Yeah, I give that.
If your favorite thing about Overwatch is getting loot boxes and seeing that gold drop out and you get the skin you want, that's fine. If your favorite thing about Overwatch is getting really good at the game and getting as high as SR as possible, that's fine. Like what you like. It's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, and I
like if both of you came on this podcast and just poo-pooed Brogue to the moon, I'd say, okay, cool. And then I'd boot the game up and I'd have a run and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, and
Other people's happiness and how they interact with games has no effect on me.
And I completely agree with that. I mean, I disagree with a little bit of that post saying that, they have to steady drip feed, cosmetics and stuff to make the player base happy. I play Apex Legends because I enjoy the gameplay. It's smooth, it's fun, it's good to jump in with a couple of friends. But yeah, I mean, I know what he was trying to hit on there, but yeah, no, I mean, if you enjoy a game, play it. Like I said, all the games we do are free to play. If you don't like it, anyway, you didn't lose anything when you're playing it, so it's fantastic. It's a win-win for everybody. You didn't spend any money, and you got to play something, even if you do poo-poo on it all day long.
Yeah, I just felt that post was almost just epitomizes what our podcast is about. Trying out that free-to-play game so that you can find something that you enjoy playing, that you're not having to spend $60 a pop to load it onto your system and play it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we will refer back to, I think it was one of our first podcasts we did, was that if you play a game like this and you really, really enjoy it, toss the developer a few bucks. I mean, purchase something in-game, donate to them. If you like it, keep supporting stuff like this so that we can continue to have stuff like this. I personally do it with almost every game, whether it's $5, $10, $20, whatever it is. If I really enjoy the game, I put a little more money towards it. And on that note, Scott, take us away. What are we playing next week?
So let's see. Well, next week we're gonna welcome to the new age because we're going radioactive. We're gonna be playing.
Did you
Fallout
just make
Shelter.
an Imagine Dragons reference?
Oh, God, Scott. Oh, my soul. Stop the Make it stop.
Are you guys quite done?
Yes, I'm finished.
Hold on a second.
Cody?
No! Okay, I'm done.
Okay. We want to thank you for joining us. If you're listening on iTunes, we ask that you would leave us a review. And if you really enjoyed us, make sure that's a 5-star review,
6 stars.
of course. 6 stars. No, 5.5 stars, right?
No.
Always include the half star.
Oh, okay.
Remember that.
Yes.
Words of wisdom from Cody.
Hit it. You can follow us on Twitter at Budget Arcade. From there, you can join our Discord server. You can send any hate mail to budget.arcade@gmail.com.
Also,
music is done.
Oh, go ahead.
What are you going to say?
If you're not sick of me, I have another podcast you can listen to. It's called Film Soliloquy. It's on Spotify right now, Anchor, TuneIn, and one other one that I can't think of.
Man, that's a movie
we're trying to
podcast.
get
No
on
one cares
iTunes.
about that. We talking about games.
Anyway, Film Soliloquy, SOLILQUY. That's my plug.
We talking
Go
about
ahead.
games. We talking about games. This is where we live. Talking about the games, not movies.
And music is by Stibbage. You can download his music at metroidmetal.com. This has been a Little Gray Boy Podcasting Network production. And also Film Soliloquy is part of that network. Right, Jeff?
I think so. I haven't checked with Jason. Probably.
You might as well consider it.
Professional. Yes, sure. Why not? I don't know.
Professional idiots.
We've only got one episode out.
Yes.
We don't really know what we're doing.
We've got 9 episodes out, and we still don't know what we're doing. What does that matter?
There's a new podcasting app out. I don't know if either one of you have heard about it yet. It's called
I actually
Swoot,
downloaded it.
SWOOT. It's a social media podcasting app. So you connect to all of your friends within your network, on your Facebook, on your Twitter, through your contacts. If they're on Swoot, you can connect to them, and whatever they're listening to, you can look at their listens, and usually, if you want a recommendation from them, you can see what they're listening to on a regular basis and maybe check out what they're listening to as well. Again, it's SWOOT. I know it's available for Android. I'm not sure about iTunes yet.
It's like one of those weird ones that it didn't look like it was on iTunes, which is usually the other way around. Usually iTunes gets the apps first, and then us poor Android folks get it later. But Oh, we're on Stitcher. That's what it was.
Very good. All right, and we will be back next week. Everyone, game on.
Woohoo! You can take that last bark out. I'm stopping recording.